The first thing you learn as a census worker is that the world is made of doors. Some are painted bright and proud, as if they want to be noticed from down the block. Some are tired, chipped at the edges, with old numbers that have half peeled away. Some are hidden behind hedges and hanging plants, as if the house itself prefers not to be counted. My door, the one I leave from each morning, is ordinary. A plain knob, a plain lock, a plain little step that squeaks if you put your weight on the left side. It's the kind of door you stop seeing after a while. I brew my coffee the same way every day. 2 scoops, a slow pour, no sugar. The kettle whistles, sharp and brief, then quiet again, like even it knows it should not make too much fuss. On the table, my supplies wait in neat lines, my badge, my pens, my extra forms, my little map folded to the same creases, and my clipboard, which is not heavy, but feels heavy anyway, because it contains the day. I don't have a dramatic job. Nobody claps for a census worker. Nobody tells stories about the heroic person who asked about the number of people living in a house. Still, the job must be done. The government sends letters. Some people answer, some do not. And then someone like me is sent into the quiet neighborhoods where the grass grows and the mailboxes lean slightly, and I knock. At 8:03 a.m., I step outside. The street is already awake, but not busy. A dog barks once, then decides it has barked enough. A lawn sprinkler ticks in a slow rhythm. Somewhere far off, a truck reverses with a soft beeping that sounds like a sleepy bird. I walk to my assigned area, District 14B, 3 blocks of small houses and 2 apartment buildings at the end of a cul-de-sac. The map says it's straightforward. Straight lines, straight routes, straight work. I like straightforward. The first house is number 116. The paint is pale yellow. The porch has a small bench with a cushion that has faded from sun. I check my list. No response to mailed questionnaire. I climb the steps carefully because steps have a way of surprising you when you think you know them. I knock. One knock, another, and then I wait. That's part of the job too. Waiting. Not dramatic waiting, not suspenseful waiting. Just a quiet pause with your clipboard in your hands and your shoes on someone else's welcome mat. A woman opens the door about a foot. She is wearing a cardigan, and her hair is pulled back like she did it quickly, without checking a mirror. She looks at my badge, then my face, then the clipboard, as if it might explain itself. Morning, I say, because morning is what it is. I'm with the census office. We didn't receive your form, so I'm here to complete it with you. It should only take a few minutes. She blinks once, slowly, the way people do when they've already decided the day will not go exactly as planned. Oh, she says. Right. She opens the door wider, but does not invite me in. Most people do not. Most people answer from the doorway, balancing their coffee mugs, holding their children back with one hand, or standing very still, like the act of being counted might change something. Let's do it, she says, and sighs, like she is agreeing to carry a grocery bag. I ask the questions the same way I always do, in the same calm tone, as if calmness is a kind of blanket. How many people live in this household? I begin. 3, she says. Me, my husband, and our son. And is this home owned or rented? Owned. Do you or any other members of the household identify as? She answers in short, efficient words. She does not look up much. She does not ask questions. She does not smile. But she is not rude either. She is simply finished with this before it has even started. When I reach the end, I thank her. She nods, already backing away, already returning to whatever she was doing before the census existed. The door closes, and the porch is quiet again. I make a small check mark beside 11-6 and take one step down, then another. The second house is number 118. Gray siding. A small flag on the porch, a wind chime that clinks softly even though there is almost no breeze. I knock. This time, nobody answers. I knock again, because sometimes people are in the back room or in the shower or upstairs, moving slowly. Still nothing. I wait. I listen. I can hear the hum of a refrigerator from inside, faint and steady. I can hear a television somewhere, muffled by walls. But no footsteps come to the door. I leave a notice card in the frame of the screen door. The card says, politely, that we tried. The card is always polite. It never says, you are making my job longer. It never says, the count matters. It never says, please, just answer the form next time. It only says we tried. On I go. At 100, a man answers with a dog pressed to his leg like a fuzzy anchor. The man talks too much, not in an interesting way, just in a way that fills silence because silence makes him uncomfortable. At 122, a teenager answers, says their parents are not home, and tries to shut the door quickly, but politely enough that I can't accuse them of slamming it. At 124, I see curtains move, but nobody opens. That happens more than people admit. Some doors are not for opening. I walk. I knock. I write. I check my list. Hours pass in a way that is hard to notice. The sun shifts on the sidewalk. The shadows of trees move like slow hands across lawns. By late morning, I reach the first apartment building. It is only 2 stories, but it has the feeling of a place with many separate worlds inside. Apartment buildings are different. Houses are singular. One porch, one family, one door that belongs to one story. Apartment buildings stack stories like plates. The lobby smells faintly of cleaning product and old carpet. A bulletin board holds flyers for missing cats, yoga classes, and a notice about not leaving trash in the hallway. My route says, Building 3, Units 1 to 12, several non-responses. I step toward the first door, Unit 1A. The number is printed cleanly, black on white. I knock. A pause. Then the door opens, and an older man stands there holding a folded newspaper, as if he was just about to read it, but decided I was a page he had to look at first. Yes? He says. I show my badge and explain myself. He nods slowly. I already filled that out, he says. We didn't receive it, I reply, which is the truth, even if it's an unsatisfying truth. He makes a sound that is not quite a sigh, not quite a laugh. Well, he says, come on then, ask your questions. He answers everything in a careful voice, as if he wants to be accurate, as if accuracy is a duty. When I finish, he says, you know, I like the census. I look up. You do? He shrugs. It's like a reminder that someone is paying attention, not in a nosy way, in a record-keeping way. I write down the last of his answers. He folds his newspaper more tightly. When you get older, he adds, it's nice to know you're still on the list. I thank him again and step back into the hallway, where the light is slightly yellow and the air is still. As I walk toward Unit 1B, I think about that phrase. Still on the list. I knock on Unit 1B. No answer. I knock again. This time, I hear a small sound, something shifting, something like a chair scraping lightly across the floor. Then silence. I wait longer than usual. I don't know why. Maybe because the building is quiet enough that my waiting feels loud. Finally, I leave a notice card. The card slides into the crack of the door like a gentle suggestion. I continue through the building. Some doors open, some do not. Some people are polite, some are suspicious. Most are simply tired. By noon, I have completed 7 interviews and left 5 notices. I sit on the low concrete wall outside the building and eat my sandwich. It is plain, turkey, lettuce, mustard. I brought it because it is easy. I chew slowly, watching a small ant carry a crumb across the edge of the wall, as if it has a purpose bigger than mine. Across the street, a bus sighs to a stop, then sighs again as it pulls away. A woman walks a stroller. The baby inside does not cry. The baby seems to accept the world without commentary. My phone shows the time. My list shows the next street. I stand. I fold my sandwich wrapper. I put it in my bag. I pick up my clipboard. And I keep going, because that is the job. But as I walk toward the next block, I notice something small, something that most people would not notice. On my list, next to one address, Unit 2C in the apartment building, I see a note written in a different hand than mine. Not the printed ink, not the usual typed remark. A small, careful pencil mark. Do not approach alone. I stop walking for a second, just long enough for the sun to land differently on my shoes. I have never seen that note before. I stare at it, feeling the ordinary day pause in a way that doesn't quite fit. Then a car passes. A bird chirps. The street continues. And because I am a census worker, and because my job is to keep moving, turn the page on my clipboard as if turning a page could make the note less real. I tell myself the note is old. That's the easiest explanation. Some past worker, cautious or dramatic, scribbled it down after an odd experience. Maybe they didn't like the barking dog. Maybe someone shouted. Maybe someone answered the door with anger, and the worker decided to write something down to feel safer. Notes happen. People create systems. We leave breadcrumbs for the next person. Still, the words sit in my mind like a pebble in a shoe. Do not approach alone. I read it again after a few steps, then force myself to stop reading it. A person can think themselves into trouble if they keep staring at the idea of trouble. I finish the rest of my route on that block. I knock at a blue house where a man answers in a bathrobe and says he is busy, which is not a helpful answer, but is an honest one. I knock at a white house where a woman offers me a bottle of water and insists I take it, like it is a small way to fix something in her day. Then the list brings me back to the apartment building. I stand in the lobby again and look at the directory. 2C is upstairs. I consider the note once more and decide that the simplest safe thing is to do what my training says. If you feel uncertain, call your supervisor. So I step outside, where the air is warmer, and I dial the office number. It rings. It rings again. Finally, a voice answers, flat, busy, friendly, in a practiced way. "Census Field Support," the woman says. "This is Mariah." "Hi," I say. "This is Daniel. Field Worker ID 14B72. There is a small pause, the sound of keys tapping. "Yes," she says. "I have you." "I'm at Building 3, I explain. I noticed a handwritten note on my list next to Unit 2C. It says, "Do not approach alone." Do we have any additional information on that address? Mariah exhales, a quiet sound. "Hold on," she says, and I can hear her typing. I stand on the sidewalk with my clipboard under my arm, looking at nothing in particular. The street is ordinary. A man loads groceries into a car. A bicycle leans against a railing. A cloud moves slowly over the sun. "Okay," Mariah says. "I'm seeing an incident report from last cycle." "Incident report," I repeat, keeping my voice calm. "Nothing major," she says quickly, like she can sense the word has weight. "But it says a worker felt threatened." The resident refused to answer. followed the worker to the stairwell and made comments. What kind of comments? Mariah hesitates. The report says implied surveillance, suggested worker was being watched, and mentioned names. Names? I ask. Yes, she says, like the resident already knew the worker, or claimed they did. I look at my own name printed on my badge, Daniel. My throat feels dry. I take a small sip from the water bottle the woman gave me earlier. So what should I do? I ask. Mariah's tone becomes the tone of someone reading policy. If you have a safety concern, you can skip the unit and mark it for follow-up, or you can request a second worker. How long does it take to get a second worker? Depends, she says. Staffing is tight, but we can try. I glance at the building. 2 stories, quiet windows, normal curtains. Okay, I say, because okay is a tool. Mark it for follow-up. I'll continue my route elsewhere. Done, Mariah says, and I can hear relief in her voice. Please do. And thank you for calling. I hang up and stand still for a moment, letting the ordinary street absorb the strange information. An incident report from last cycle. I tell myself that last cycle could mean years, that people move, that whatever happened might not happen again. But the thought that someone inside Unit 2C might say my name before I say it makes my skin feel too small. I return to my route, choosing the next block away from the building. The day continues to be boring. I knock, I ask, I write, I think. I listen to the common music of human answers. How many people live here? Becomes a question that can be answered 100 ways, but always ends up as a number. Some people are proud of their number. 5, they say, smiling, as if 5 means full, busy, alive. Some people say their number with apology. Just me, they whisper, as if being alone is a failure. Some people have to think, which always surprises me, as if the house contains hidden rooms they do not enter often. By mid-afternoon, my steps have taken me to a quieter street at the edge of my district. Here, the houses are older, the porches are lower, the air smells like dry leaves and sun-warmed wood. At number 21, a woman in her 60s answers and insists on telling me about her rose bushes. She points to them with pride, as if the census includes flowers. At 2003, a man answers, and when I ask the questions, he gives answers that sound rehearsed, like he practiced being counted. At 2:05, the door opens a crack, and a child's face appears behind it. Big eyes, curious, not afraid. A mother's voice calls from inside, and the door closes again. I mark no contact, leave a card, and move on. It is boring again. It is safe again, until I look down at my clipboard and notice something else. The same handwriting as the earlier note, the same soft pencil. This time, not beside an address, but at the bottom margin of my page, where I know I did not write anything. A single sentence, small and neat, still on the list. My stomach tightens. The older man from Unit 1A said those exact words, but he said them aloud, casually, like a thought. This sentence is written on my paper like a message. I stop walking. I turn the clipboard toward the sun, as if better light will prove it isn't there. But it is there, still on the list. I flip back to the previous page, where the note about Unit 2C sits. That note is also pencil, same style, same pressure, same slant. I did not notice it before because I wasn't looking for it. But now, I can see it. The pencil is slightly smudged, like a finger brushed it. I look around the street. There are no people close by, only cars parked along the curb, silent and patient. A tree moves its branches a little. I feel, suddenly, the odd sensation of being watched. Not by eyes, exactly, but by attention. My badge feels too visible. I take a breath and do what boring people do when something stops being boring. I try to return it to boring. I tell myself there is a logical explanation. Someone in the office wrote it, some prank, some accidental note. I check the back of the page and there is nothing. I slide the pencil tip of my own pen over the words, careful not to smear them further. It is pencil, not ink, which means it could be erased. But I do not erase it. Not yet. Instead, I continue. The last few houses on the street answer normally. One man jokes that the census is the government being nosy. One woman says she doesn't mind because someone has to know we exist. I nod at these comments. I smile politely. I write the numbers. I thank them. All the while, the sentence sits on my clipboard like a quiet second voice. Still on the list. By late afternoon, I am done with my assigned route. I return toward the office building, small, plain, with the census sign that looks like it was printed 10 years ago and never updated. Inside, the air conditioning is slightly too cold. The fluorescent lights make everyone's skin look pale and tired. Mariah is at her desk. She looks up when I enter. "Hey," she says. "How'd it go?" "Fine," I say automatically. Then I place my clipboard on the counter and tilt it toward her. "What is this?" I ask. She leans forward, squints, and her expression changes. Just a flicker, but enough for me to see. "I don't know," she says. "You didn't write it?" "No," she says, then adds quickly, "We wouldn't write in pencil. We use digital notes now." I tap the words. "Still on the list," I say. Mariah swallows. "That's weird." I nod because weird is a small word that people use when they don't want to say something bigger. "I also got a note on my list about Unit 2C, I say. Handwritten. Pencil." Mariah's eyes narrow. "That shouldn't be there," she says, and she reaches for the clipboard like she wants to protect it from itself. She lifts it, flips pages, and then pauses. "What?" I ask. She points to a different place. One I haven't looked at yet. A margin. A corner. A corner. There, in the same pencil, is another sentence. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just simple. "Tomorrow, start at 2C. Mariah's hand goes still. The office around us continues, phones ringing softly, papers shuffling, someone laughing far away at something unrelated. But the sentence sits between us like a cold object. Mariah looks at me, and for the first time, she doesn't sound like policy. "Daniel," she says quietly, "we're going to have to report this." I swallow. Outside, evening light begins to warm the windows, turning the ordinary world slightly golden, as if nothing strange has happened. But on my clipboard, in pencil, someone has written instructions for tomorrow, and I don't know who. The next morning, the coffee tastes the same, but it does not feel the same. When something strange happens, you expect the world to change color. You expect the sky to be darker, the air to be heavier, the street to be louder. But everything stays boring, which is the worst part. The world refuses to match your nerves. At the office, Mariah is waiting, and so is another person, a second field worker. His name is Curtis. That is what his badge says, and that is what he says when he introduces himself, in a tone that suggests his name has never mattered much to anyone else. Curtis looks young, but tired. His hair is trimmed short. His shirt is tucked in neatly, like he wants the shirt to feel in control even if he isn't. "We're pairing you up," Mariah says. "Two-person safety protocol, just for that unit." She does not say Unit 2C out loud at first, but we all know. Curtis nods once. "Fine by me," he says. He doesn't ask why. He doesn't ask what happened. He doesn't ask anything. It's possible he already knows, or it's possible he simply doesn't care. Mariah gives us the route sheet, freshly printed this time, no pencil notes. She taps the top with her finger like she is sealing it with a promise. Start where you normally would, she says, and then, if you're comfortable, go to 2C together. She looks at me, and in her eyes I can see she means, if you're not comfortable, you don't have to. But the pencil note is already in my head like a tiny hook. Tomorrow, start at 2C. It's today now. Curtis and I walk to the building in silence. Not an awkward silence, just a practical one. The sidewalk is covered with small, dry leaves that crunch softly under our shoes. When we reach Building 3, Curtis checks the directory as if he's never been in a building before. Second floor, he says, and starts up the stairs. I follow. The hallway upstairs is quieter than I expect. The carpet is worn in the middle where feet have traveled the same path for years. The doors are painted the same beige, like the building decided individuality was unnecessary. We stop at 2C. The number is straight. The door frame is clean. Nothing looks broken. Curtis stands on one side. I stand on the other. I knock. For a moment, nothing. Then, footsteps. Slow, measured, not rushed. The door opens and a woman appears. She is middle-aged, with hair that is perfectly brushed. She wears a pale blouse and a necklace that looks expensive but simple. Her eyes move from my badge to Curtis's badge to our faces. Good morning, she says, as if she has been expecting us. I feel my throat tighten, but I speak anyway. Hello, ma'am. We're with the census office. We're following up because we didn't receive your questionnaire. She smiles softly. Of course, she says. Come in. Curtis glances at me. We are trained not to enter if we don't feel safe, but she has already stepped back, holding the door open with a calm hand. The hallway behind us is empty. The stairwell is quiet. We step in. The apartment is very neat. Not warm neat, like someone lives there with comfortable mess. It is museum neat. Everything is placed as if it is part of a display. A couch with no wrinkles, a coffee table with a single book centered on it, a vase with flowers that look real but might not be. The air smells faintly of lemon polish. Please, she says, gesturing to chairs at a small dining table. Sit. Curtis sits. I sit. The woman sits across from us, folding her hands. What's your name? She asks. I hesitate. Daniel, I say, pointing slightly to my badge, as if the badge can shield me. And this is Curtis. Daniel, she repeats, and the way she says it makes the name feel less like mine. Curtis clears his throat. We can do this quickly, he says, opening his folder. She nods. Quickly is fine. I begin the questions, because routine is safer than thinking. How many people live in this household? I ask. 2, she says. Me and my son. And is this home owned or rented? Rented. Is your son here now? She smiles again. No, she says. He's out. I write her answers carefully. Curtis watches her with a blank face, but I can see his fingers tapping lightly on the edge of the table. A small, nervous habit. We continue. Race, ethnicity, relationship, occupation. The boring questions that create the skeleton of a nation. The woman answers calmly, without pause, as if she has memorized everything. When I reach the end, I say, Thank you. That completes it. She tilts her head. Already? She asks, as if she hoped for more. Curtis stands. Yes, ma'am. We appreciate your time. The woman stands too, smoothing her blouse. As we move toward the door, she says, Daniel. I stop. Yes? She looks at me with the calm of someone speaking to a neighbor. Tell Mariah hello. she says. My heart hits a hard beat. How do you know Mariah? I ask before I can stop myself. The woman's smile widens slightly. Everyone is on the list, she says, eventually. Curtis opens the door quickly like he wants air. We step into the hallway. The woman remains in the doorway, watching us, her expression pleasant. As the door closes, I hear her voice one last time, soft and clear. Still on the list. In the hallway, Curtis finally looks at me directly. What the hell was that? He whispers. I don't answer right away. My mouth is dry. We walk quickly down the stairs. The lobby feels too bright. The street outside feels too open. Curtis pulls out his phone. I'm calling the office, he says. I nod, because I can't think of anything else to do. While he talks, I stare at my clipboard. A small pencil mark has appeared again, as if it grew there while we were inside. Not on the route sheet, but on the back, near the clip. It says, "Good job, Daniel." Back at the office, the walls feel thinner than they used to. Curtis speaks first, his voice louder than necessary, like volume can force reality into a sensible shape. We completed the interview, he tells Mariah, but she knew your name. She said, tell Mariah hello, and she repeated that phrase, still on the list. Mariah's face turns tight. She looks at me. Did she threaten you? No, I say. Not directly. Curtis holds up my clipboard. But this appeared, he says, pointing to the pencil message. Mariah takes it, her fingers careful. Good job, Daniel, she reads softly. The room around us hums. The printer whirs. Someone in another cubicle laughs at a joke that seems to come from a different universe. Mariah straightens and says, We're escalating this now. She walks us into a small conference room, the kind with a long table, mismatched chairs, and a faded poster on the wall about data integrity. A supervisor arrives 10 minutes later. Her name is Ms. Hall. She wears glasses and has the tired focus of someone who solves problems without drama. Mariah explains everything again. Ms. has problems. Hall listens, nodding only at the end. Okay, she says. 2 things. First, you will not return to that unit. Second, we're filing a formal incident report and contacting building management. Curtis exhales like he has been holding his breath since we left 2C. And the writing? I ask. How is that possible? Ms. Hall looks at me. It's possible someone got access to your clipboard, she says, or someone at the office is playing a prank. It doesn't feel like a prank, I say. No, she agrees, calm. It doesn't. She picks up the clipboard and examines the paper edges, the clip, the back. Then she sets it down carefully. Daniel, she says, go home early today. I blink. But I have the rest of my route. We'll reassign it, she says, firm. Go home. Curtis is already backing toward the door. I'm done too, he mutters, and nobody stops him. I leave the building with my bag lighter than usual because my clipboard stays behind. Ms. Hall keeps it like it is evidence. Outside, the sun is still shining. The street is still boring. A person buys coffee. A car waits at a red light. The world refuses to match my heartbeat. At home, I try to do normal things. I wash a dish that doesn't need washing. I straighten books that are already straight. I turn on the television and then turn it off because the noise feels wrong. My phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. No greeting. No name. Just a photo. It is a close-up of a census form, one of ours, with my name typed neatly in the enumerator field. Below it, in pencil, 3 words, count yourself too. I stare at the screen until my eyes start to sting. Then my phone buzzes again. This time, a second photo. A picture of my front door. taken from outside. In the corner of the frame, almost hidden, is my welcome mat, the same one I stopped noticing years ago. And in the message box, a final sentence. Some doors are for opening. My hand tightens around the phone. For the first time in my boring job, I understand something I never wanted to understand. The census isn't just counting people. Someone is counting me back. I don't call the unknown number back. I don't reply. I don't type a question mark. I don't do anything that might feel like a conversation, because conversations are openings, and the last message I received was about doors. Instead, I sit at my kitchen table and let the ordinary objects around me try to convince me this is still an ordinary day. The salt shaker is where it always is. The spoon rest has a faint coffee stain that never scrubs out. The clock above the stove still shows the wrong time. I watch it anyway, as if it might decide to be correct out of guilt. Outside, a neighbor's car door closes. Footsteps cross a sidewalk. Someone laughs briefly, and the sound dissolves into the afternoon. Everything is normal, which means everything is not. I pick up my phone again and open the photos. I zoom in on my own door. The angle is low, like the person was standing close, holding their phone near their waist. They didn't take it from the street. They took it from my step. That detail makes my stomach tighten more than the words do. Then I do the boring thing I'm trained to do when I have a problem. I look for procedure. I pull up my contacts and scroll until I find Mariah. My thumb hovers. I imagine her face when she reads another message. I imagine her tone, the polite calm cracking a little at the edges. I imagine her saying, "Daniel, this is not okay," as if naming it could shrink it. I press call. It rings twice, then goes to voicemail. I don't leave one. Leaving a voicemail feels like leaving a trail. I call the office line instead, the general number. A recording plays, cheerful and unhelpful. "Thank you for calling. Our hours are..." I hang up. Then, because I have nowhere else to put the energy, I do something I haven't done in years. I leave my house without a reason that can be written on a route sheet. I walk. Not fast, not like someone running from anything. Just a steady walk, as if I'm going to buy groceries or pick up a package. I keep my face neutral. I keep my shoulders relaxed. I act like I belong to the sidewalk. The census office is only 20 minutes away. It's in a low building next to a dental clinic and a small insurance agency. The sign is still there, still bland, still trying not to be noticed. When I arrive, the parking lot is half empty. The windows reflect the sky. No one is visible inside. I stand by my car and look at the building as if it might confess something on its own. Then I go to the door. It's locked, of course. Office hours ended. Procedure ended. I press my face closer to the glass, trying to see inside without looking like I'm trying. The lobby is dim. The bulletin board is a rectangle of shadows. The hallway beyond looks like a throat. I turn to leave. And then I see it. A thin envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. My name is written on the front in block letters. Daniel. Not my last name. Not my full name. Just the part people use when they want to sound familiar. The envelope is plain white. No stamp. No return address. The paper looks like office paper, not fancy stationery, which makes it worse. Fancy things belong to drama. Office paper belongs to everyday life. I slide it out carefully. My hands are steady, but my throat feels tight, like my body is trying to swallow the moment. I open the envelope. Inside is a single sheet, a photocopy of a census field worksheet, an old version, the kind we used 2 cycles ago. At the top, in the enumerator field, it says, Daniel H., my last initial. Correct. Below, in the section for notes, someone has written in pencil, "You didn't finish your count." Under that, an address, not Unit 2C, My address. The paper smells like toner and faint pencil dust. I stare at it until my eyes stop trying to make it mean something else. Then I fold it back into the envelope, slide it into my pocket, and stand in the parking lot with my heart beating in a way that feels too loud for such a small, boring space. Across the street, the dental clinic's waiting room light is still on. A person moves behind the blinds, slow and shadowy. A normal life continues there, full of teeth and paperwork and little conversations about insurance. I get in my car. I don't drive home immediately. I drive around the block once, then twice, because I want to know if someone is behind me. Every car becomes suspicious for a second, then becomes a car again. I try to read patterns in turn signals, in brake lights, in the timing of a lane change. Nothing confirms anything, which is the problem. Nothing denies anything either. Finally, I go home. I park and sit in my car for a full minute, hands on the steering wheel, looking at my front steps. No one is there. My door is closed. My welcome mat is in place. The world is quiet enough that I can hear a distant dog bark and a leaf skitter across pavement. I step out. I walk to my door with the careful calm of someone who doesn't want to look afraid. At the mat, I stop. Something is different. At first, I can't name it. Then my eyes lock onto the detail. The mat has been moved slightly to the left. An inch? Maybe 2? Not enough for a neighbor to notice. Not enough for a passerby to care. But enough for me to know someone touched it. I lift the mat. Under it is a small card, like a business card. Plain, white. 3 lines in pencil. 1. You are not special. 2. You are simply counted. 3. Tomorrow, 8,003 a.m. 8:03. The exact time I stepped outside yesterday. My mouth goes dry. I stand there holding the card while my key sits cold in my other hand. Then, slowly, I unlock the door and go inside because the idea that I can keep something out with a lock feels childish now. That night, I don't sleep well. Not because I'm panicking. Panic is loud. I'm not loud. I'm quiet. I sleep in broken pieces. I wake up and listen. I hear the refrigerator hum. I hear the building settle. I hear my own breath. I hear nothing else. At 7,059, I'm sitting in a chair by the window with my coat on and my phone in my hand, watching the street like it is a television show that might suddenly reveal its plot. At 8,003 exactly, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. A single text. Begin. I stare at it. Then, because I don't know what else begin means, I do the only thing I know how to do. I pick up my bag. And I go back to the office. The office smells the same cold air conditioning and paper and someone's mint gum. The fluorescent lights make everything look slightly unreal, like the world has been bleached. Mariah is at her desk. When she sees me, her eyes widen. "Daniel," she says, standing halfway. "Why are you here?" I hold up my phone. I don't show her the earlier photos yet. I show her the message from 8,003. "Did you send this?" I ask. Her face tightens. "No," she says quickly. "No, of course not." Ms. Hall appears from a hallway, holding a folder. She stops when she sees me. "I told you to go home," she says, not unkindly. "I did," I say. And then someone came to my house. The air changes in the room. It's subtle, but it's there, like a draft. Mariah's hand covers her mouth for a second, then drops. Ms. Hall nods once, like she expected the situation to grow. "Come in," she says. "Conference room." We sit at the same faded table under the same data integrity poster. The poster feels like it's mocking us now. I show them everything: the photos, the envelope under my windshield wiper, the card under my mat, the text that said, "Begin." Mariah looks pale. Ms. Hall watches without much expression, but her jaw is set tight. When I finish, she says, "We're calling the police." I nod. That is what I want to hear, because police are a word that belongs to official reality. But then Ms. Hall adds, "And we're locking down your information." I blink. My information? She taps the folder in front of her. Enumerator assignments. Field IDs. Where you're assigned. It's all in our system. I never gave anyone my address, I say, though I already know how weak that sentence sounds. Addresses are everywhere. They're on envelopes, on records, on forms. Ms. Hall's eyes narrow. "We don't print enumerator home addresses," she says. "Not on field sheets. Not anywhere. Someone had to go looking." The phrase, "go looking," is too calm for what it means. Mariah swallows. Could someone at the office? Ms. Hall holds up a hand. "We don't speculate," she says. "We document." She stands and leaves the room for a moment. I hear her voice on the phone in the hallway, low, firm, clipped. The kind of voice that cannot be ignored. When she returns, she is holding a new packet. She sets it on the table in front of me. "This is your route for today," she says. I stare at the top page. District 14B is crossed out. The new route says District 9F, a completely different part of town, different streets, different buildings. "Why are you giving me a route?" I ask, confused. Ms. Hall looks at me steadily. "Because if the person texting you wants you to begin," she says, "I'd rather you do it under our awareness than alone in your house." Mariah's eyes flick to mine, anxious. "I'm not asking you to play along," Ms. Hall adds quickly. "I'm asking you to stay in public, stay seen, stay surrounded by normal." Normal, a word that used to mean nothing. "And Curtis?" I ask, because Curtis feels like a witness, like proof I didn't imagine yesterday. Ms. Hall shakes her head. "Curtis clocked out and said he won't come back." I don't blame him. Refusing a story is sometimes the only safety. Ms. Hall pushes the packet closer. "You won't go alone," she says. "We'll assign you with a different partner, someone experienced." Mariah looks down at her desk, then up again. "I'll go," she says suddenly. Ms. Hall pauses. "Mariah." "I'll go," Mariah repeats, voice steady in a way I haven't heard before. "I'm the one she named. I'm part of this whether I like it or not." For a moment, the room is quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. Then Ms. Hall nods. "Fine," she says. "You too. But you stay on your route. You don't chase anything. You don't deviate. If anything feels wrong, you leave. Immediately." Mariah and I walk out together with clipboards that feel heavier than clipboards should. In the parking lot, she doesn't look at me right away. She looks at the sky, the normal blue that refuses to change. "I don't like this," she says softly. "I don't either," I say. She finally looks at me. "That woman," she says, "at 2C. I remember her." My chest tightens. "From where?" Mariah rubs her thumb over the edge of her badge like she's trying to smooth it. "Last cycle," she says. "I wasn't a field worker then. I was in data processing. We got a stack of forms from that building. Most were fine. But one, just one, had notes all over it." "What kind of notes?" I ask, keeping my voice low. Mariah exhales. "Stuff about lists," she says. "About being seen. About how the census is a doorway. It was weird. We flagged it. We wrote a report, then it got buried in paperwork. A car passes. The tires make a small hush on asphalt. And your name? I ask. Mariah's voice drops further. It was on it, she says. Not because she knew me, because I processed it. She wrote, Mariah in the margin like a signature. I feel cold despite the sun. We get into the car and drive to District 9F. The route is supposed to be boring. Small houses, a few duplexes, a corner store. We begin exactly like always. Knock, introduce ourselves, ask questions. For an hour, it works. The world behaves. Then, at the fourth house, a man opens the door, looks at our badges, and says something that makes my stomach drop. Oh, he says, smiling faintly. You're the new ones. Mariah stiffens. New ones? The man nods as if we're late. Yeah, he says, leaning on the doorframe. The last guy came already, but he said you'd come back. I feel my throat tighten. What last guy? I ask. The man's smile stays calm and boring and strange. The guy with the pencil, he says. Then he adds, as casually as if he's telling us the weather. He said the count started counting back. Mariah and I step away from the door at the same time. Not running, just moving back into open air. Moving into the street where other people might see us. Moving into the space that feels less owned. The man watches us leave without surprise, as if our reaction is part of a schedule. We walk to the sidewalk and stop near a tree that sheds dry leaves like quiet confetti. Mariah speaks first. Did you know about that? She whispers. No, I say. My voice sounds thin to me. She takes out her phone and types quickly. I see her thumb hover over the call button. Don't, I say, not because I don't want help, but because I'm suddenly afraid that every call is also being counted. Mariah pauses. Daniel, this is not... I know, I say. I know. She lowers the phone slightly, breathing hard through her nose, trying to calm herself. Guy with the pencil, she says. What does that even mean? I glance back at the house. The man has stepped inside. The door is closed. Curtains are still. It means someone has been here, I say. Or someone wants us to believe they have. Mariah looks at me like she's checking if I'm still sane. We should leave, she says. Ms. Hall's instruction echoes in my mind. Do not deviate. Do not chase. Leave if anything feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. We walk back to the car. As we approach it, I notice something small, a detail that is almost too boring to matter. A thin line of pencil dust on the edge of the driver's side window. It's faint, like someone tapped a pencil there and then wiped their hand. I stop. Mariah sees my face and follows my gaze. What? I point. Her eyes narrow. She leans closer, then straightens quickly. Someone touched the car, she says. Or someone wants us to think they did, I reply, but the words don't comfort me. Mariah opens the car door quickly and checks the seat, the floor, the glove compartment, like the threat might be an object. Nothing obvious. We sit inside with the doors locked. Mariah finally presses call. Not the office, emergency services. She speaks in short sentences, clear and controlled. We're census workers. Someone is harassing us. We've received threatening messages. We're at... I watch the street while she talks. The street is boring. A woman carries groceries. A child rides a scooter. A man waters plants. Everything is ordinary enough to make you feel crazy for being afraid. Then I see a person across the street. A figure standing near the corner store at the end of the block. Not moving. Not shopping. Just standing. They're too far for me to see details clearly. But something about the stillness makes my skin tighten. People usually shift their weight. They check their phones. They do something. This person is doing nothing. Mariah finishes the call and looks at me. They're sending someone, she says. I nod. My eyes stay on the corner store. After a moment, the still figure walks inside. The bell above the door jingles faintly. Mariah follows my gaze. What are you looking at? The store, I say. We're not going in there, she says quickly, like she can read my thoughts. I know, I say, but my mind is already doing that thing minds do when they're scared, trying to connect dots, trying to create a shape that explains the fear. We sit in the car and wait. Minutes pass in a slow drip. The sun shifts. A cloud moves. The world stays quiet. A police car arrives. 2 officers step out. One is older, one younger. They approach our car with careful calm. Mariah speaks first, showing them the messages, the photos, explaining about Unit 2C, about the notes. The older officer watches my face. Are you being followed? He asks. I don't know, I say honestly. He nods like he's heard. I don't know, 1,000 times. The younger officer asks for the unknown number. Mariah gives it. The officer types it into his phone, frowning. I'll have dispatch check it, he says. The older officer looks around the street. This neighborhood is calm, he says. But that doesn't mean you're imagining it. It means the person doing this is being careful. Careful. That word lands heavy. Mariah asks, can you go to the building management at Building 3? Unit 2C? The officer nods. We can do a welfare check if appropriate, he says. But you should not return there. We won't, Mariah says, and I hear relief in her voice. The officers take our statements. They give us a case number. They tell us to keep evidence. They tell us to call if anything escalates. When they leave, the street feels too quiet again. Mariah grips the steering wheel. We're going back, she says. Now! We drive back toward the office and I keep checking mirrors. On the way, we pass a small park. A bench, a trash can, a slow-moving jogger. Then my phone buzzes. Unknown number again. A single text. Good procedure. Mariah sees it because my hand jerks. What did it say? She asks. I show her. She shakes her head like she's trying to fling the moment off her body. This is sick, she whispers. We reach the office and rush inside like 2 people arriving late to safety. Ms. Hall meets us in the lobby. I got your call, she says, eyes sharp. You're done for the day. Both of you. Mariah starts talking all at once about the man who said, the guy with the pencil, about the dust on the window, about the corner store figure, about the police. Ms. Hall listens. Then she gestures us into the conference room again. We're going to tighten access, she says. No paper routes left out. No clipboards unsecured. No personal information visible. And Daniel, your address is now confidential within our system. How? I ask. Ms. Hall's mouth tightens. It should have been already, she says. But we're treating this like an internal breach until proven otherwise. Mariah rubs her forehead. Internal, she repeats, like the word makes her tired. Ms. Hall looks at both of us. Here's the boring truth, she says. Most harassment comes from someone with a reason, a neighbor, a grudge, a misunderstanding. And if it's not that, I ask? Ms. Hall's eyes hold mine. Then it's someone who likes systems, she says. Someone who likes paperwork because paperwork feels like power. That night, when I go home, I check my welcome mat before I open the door. I don't want to do that. I don't want this to become routine, but it already is. Under the mat, there is nothing. For a moment, I feel relief so sharp it almost hurts. Then I look up. On my door, taped neatly at eye level, is a census notice card, the kind I leave for other people. Except this one is addressed to me, and in the reason for visit box, someone has checked. I stare at the card until my eyes stop trying to make it funny. Because on the surface, it is funny. It's the kind of irony someone would post online with a caption like, "Guess my job followed me home." But the neat tape, the careful handwriting, the checked box, none of it is meant to entertain. It is meant to declare something. Final attempt. I remove the card slowly. The tape peels off cleanly, like it was applied by someone patient, someone who pressed it down and smoothed it with a fingertip. I hold the card in my hand and step inside, locking the door behind me even though I know locks are mostly theater. The air in my house smells like it always does. Coffee, dish soap, old paper from books. Familiar smells should feel safe, but now they feel like a list of things that could be noticed by someone else. I put the card on my kitchen table and sit across from it as if it's a person. Then my phone buzzes. Unknown number. A new message. You've been avoiding the last questions. My throat tightens. I type before I can stop myself. Stop contacting me. The message sends. A reply comes instantly. Good. Now you're participating. I stare at the screen, feeling a strange, boring shame. Like I just broke my own rule. I set the phone down and rub my hands together, trying to push warmth into them. Then the landline rings. I freeze. I don't even remember the last time my landline rang. Most people don't call landlines anymore unless they're selling something. And I certainly did not give my landline number to anyone. It rings again and again. Finally, I pick it up. Hello? I say. Silence. Then a voice, soft, controlled, almost pleasant. Daniel, the voice says. My mouth goes dry. Who is this? A small pause, like the person is smiling. This is your respondent, the voice says. That's not, I begin, but the voice continues smoothly. You ask questions all day, it says. You stand in doorways and collect answers. You record them. You file them. You file them. You decide what is complete and what is missing. My fingers tighten around the receiver. You're not allowed to do this, I say, but it sounds weak, like a rule spoken into wind. The voice makes a small, thoughtful hum. Allowed, it repeats. What a comforting word. I swallow. What do you want? Another small pause. I want to finish the count, the voice says. My stomach tightens. You already finished your census interview. A soft laugh, barely a laugh, more like a breath shaped into amusement. That was for my household, the voice says. This is for yours. I stare at the census notice card on my table. Final attempt. I'm calling the police, I say. The voice doesn't change. Good procedure, it says, echoing the earlier text. But you won't. My heart pounds. Why? Because you don't want to sound ridiculous, the voice says gently. Because you don't want to explain why a census worker is afraid of paper. I say nothing. The voice continues, steady as a pen. Let's begin. No, I say, and it comes out sharper than I expect. Silence for a beat. Then, question 1, the voice says, ignoring me. How many people live in your household? I grip the receiver so hard my knuckles ache. Just me, I say, because my body chooses honesty the way it chooses breathing. Thank you, the voice says calmly. Question 2. Do you own or rent? I stop. The answer shouldn't matter. The voice waits, patient, boring, professional. Own, I say. Question 3. The voice says, "How long have you lived there?" I close my eyes. Numbers, dates, facts, the structure of a life reduced to checkboxes. I answer. The voice doesn't react. It doesn't praise or judge. It simply receives. Then it asks questions that aren't on the form. Question 4, it says, "When did you last feel noticed?" My eyes open. "That's not a census question," I whisper. "It's the missing field," the voice says. "Answer, please." I swallow. The kitchen feels too quiet. "I don't know," I say finally. The voice hums again. "Noted," it says, like it is writing. Question 5, it continues. "Who do you think you are when nobody is watching?" My chest tightens. "Stop," I say. The voice stays calm. "Daniel," it says, "you're not being harmed. You're being measured." Measured. A word that belongs to height charts and hospital scales and school exams. It makes my skin prickle. I don't answer. The voice doesn't get angry. It just moves on, the way the census does when someone refuses. It marks a box and continues the attempt. Question 6, it says, "Why did you choose this job?" I exhale slowly, trying to steady myself. "Because it's simple," I say, surprising myself with the truth. "Because it's clear. Because it matters, but it doesn't follow you home." The voice is quiet for a moment, like it appreciates the phrasing. Then it says softly, "And now it does." My throat closes. I look at the notice card again. Final attempt. A sound comes from outside, very small, like a shoe scuffing a step. My entire body goes still. The voice on the line says nothing. I whisper, "Are you outside my house?" A pause. Then the voice says almost kindly, "Some doors are for opening." I stand up so fast the chair scrapes the floor. I drop the receiver. It clatters against the table and the dial tone begins to sound. Steady, unbothered, boring. I move to the window and pull the curtain back an inch. My porch is empty. My street is empty. But on the sidewalk, near the curb, there is a single pencil lying on the ground. Yellow paint, pink eraser, sharpened point aimed toward my house like an arrow. I stare at it, heart pounding. Then my phone buzzes one more time. Unknown number. A final message for the night. Will continue tomorrow. Same time. I let the curtain fall back into place. I pick up the receiver and hang it up, slowly, as if my hands can make the world behave. Then I sit back down at the table, facing the notice card like it is an appointment. Because the terrifying thing isn't the threat. The terrifying thing is the routine. The way it's becoming scheduled. The way boredom, the same boring machinery I've relied on, has turned into a calendar that someone else controls. And in the quiet, I realize something I haven't admitted yet. If this person knows systems, paperwork, procedure, then the next place they might count. Me won't be my door. It will be my file. It will be my record. It will be the version of me that exists in forms. And I have no idea how to lock that. The next morning, I don't wake up. I surface. There's a difference. Waking up feels intentional. Surfacing feels like being pulled up by something that didn't ask permission. My alarm hasn't gone off yet, but my eyes are open. The room is gray with early light. For a moment, I forget why my chest feels tight. Then my phone buzzes on the nightstand. 8003 a.m. A message from the unknown number. "Good morning, Daniel. Let's review your record." I don't touch the phone. I just lie there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the ordinary sounds of morning. The faint hiss of traffic, a bird somewhere, the soft click of my refrigerator starting its cycle. The world insists on normalcy. I get up slowly and make coffee. My hands shake just enough that I notice. I steady them against the counter and wait for the shaking to stop, like you wait for a passing train. At the table, I open my laptop. I don't know why. I don't know what I expect to find. But the word file has lodged itself in my mind like a splinter. I log into the census portal. Username, password, 2-factor code.